Welcome back to Old War Stories with Uncle Jay. This one is entitled Toner Explosion. This happened to me, unfortunately. This was back in my days at Tiny Middle, in the early days when I was on the sales floor. The years went on. Now, to put a date on this, I'm going to have to say 2005 would be a good bet. Sometime in 2005, we had inkjet printers, two or three SKUs of dot matrix printers. There was a dye sub printer that almost never sold, and of course laser printers. But at this time, color laser printers were coming on the scene. Now, any of you who are familiar with at least inkjet printers know that there's at least four different colors of ink in your printer. There's black, cyan, magenta, and yellow. The same thing goes for laser printers. They have four cartridges: black, cyan, magenta, and yellow. Well, we got this new printer in from Oki, O-K-I, Oki. Used to be Oki Data or Oki Data, depending how you want to say it and what part of the country you're from. Oki had this hokey printer, and I'll explain why it was hokey. They have this color laser printer, but it wasn't a laser printer. It was an LED printer. Ooh! They used LEDs to charge the drum with the image to be printed to the page. Just a different way of doing the same thing, and that's what they made. It also turns out that the toner that they used in this particular model, and I couldn't give you a model number to save my life unless I go and really search this, the toner that they used gave a sheen to the page. Not in the white areas, of course, but in any areas that were printed. Even black text was a bit shiny, in a sense. And if you printed a full page picture, it was shiny. And I can't tell you the amount of big, fat, dumb American consumers that came and saw the printer, saw 1,000 demo pages already printed, and then pressed the button to print their own that they would then leave and make 1,001. It was a picture of steel paint cans that had no labels on them. They were just like a shiny steel can. The tops were open, and they had very bright, enticing, quote-unquote, eye candy colors. There was cyan, magenta, and yellow, along with blue and red, maybe green, two or three others, maybe. But the primary ones that were there were the cyan, magenta, and yellow. And of course, then it had the specs printed at the bottom of the page in black and all of that. And the paint cans were like, I don't know if one had spilled or something like. You could see the shadows of the paint cans, like going around the back of them, kind of like that. The dithering, the little dots to make the color appear darker, was horrible. But the demo page worked for them to sell a lot of these printers because of the eye candy colors. Nobody looked at what's behind the paint cans. And I had big, fat, dumb American consumers come in and say, I can print photos on here. No, you don't want to. Well, look at it. I said, here, I'll print another one out for you, just so he gets his jollies one more time. Here. Take a look behind the paint cans. See all that? Look at all the colors of the paint cans. Now take a look. And I'd open the printer and pull out the drawer with all the toner cartridges. And there was the cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. I said, don't these colors look very similar to these? That's why they use them. It's because everything else doesn't look as good as it seems. And if you go to print photographs and there's dark areas in the shadows and things like that, that's what it's going to look like. Now, for something like maybe a real estate agent to have a picture of this house printed kind of shiny on a paper, and I have this house available, and it's this amount of money, and it's on this road in this town, and do you want to take a look at it? Wow, that looks really good. And it did, because typically it was a big fat dumb American consumer looking at it. And they weren't looking for shadows and dithering patterns and that, but I pointed it out to people, and a lot of them said, holy shit, you're right. It's not that good. Yeah, exactly. But because of the 1,000 and now 2 pages of these paint cans printed out, it would go through a lot of toner. That wasn't a problem for us at Tiny Middle because we had deals with the manufacturers. They had representatives come in, and this worked on a number of different levels. They had them just come in and clean up the printers, get like a Clorox wipe and clean them down, and change the ink out, change the toner out, and that's all on the company's dime. It had nothing to do with Tiny Middle. So this way it would always be there to print 1,002 more demo pages before the toner runs out again. And these people would come in every 2 weeks, every month or so, something like that. And occasionally I could get an ink cartridge out of them for particular printers or something like that they just had in their car that should have gone into that printer at Circuit City that's no longer around, or something like that. You make nice with these people and you can get some stuff. And they also had freebies. I have an Oki backpack and an Oki tape measure, probably with some pens as well. So you'd get swag, if you want to call it that, from them as well. Well, anyway, let's get back to the explosion. Here I am. It's a typical, I don't know, Wednesday, Monday, you pick. Just a regular weekday at Tiny Middle. Morning shift, not too much was going on. I was working with a coworker, Ed, who we worked together 4 days a week. The 5th was on Sunday, and he was off then. Or something like that. So anyways, we were good friends, and we'd go to lunch together and stuff like that. He eventually left, but he was there at this time. For whatever reason, somebody came around and saw that Oki printer was not printing properly. We did have a way that we could, quote unquote, expense out our own stock and charge it to, in this case, Oki. And they would pay the full retail price of it. So we would do what's called a store use merchandise item, or sum for short. And this would all be marked down, and if it was something that could be charged out to a manufacturer, it would go to accounts billable, and they would charge them for it, and Oki would pay it, and that's all there was to it. Well, anyway, they came around and like, this printer's not working, that one's not working, and the Oki printer was out of magenta toner. I got the job to replace it. So that's no problem, big deal. Well, the way the Oki printer was constructed, the drum in the printer, it had 4 separate drums, which is how they work. The drums were separately replaceable from the actual toner hopper itself. In other words, the drum is a roller that is conductive to static electricity charges, and that turns as the page goes over it. The LEDs in this printer would charge the drum. It would drop toner onto the drum, and it would stick to it in the, I forget if it's in where it's charged and then not, yeah, where it's charged, the toner would stick. And how they figured out where a magenta dot would go and a yellow dot would go and a cyan dot and a black dot would go, I don't know. But that's how they did it. So the toner itself was a separate hopper cartridge. And there's a way to separate it. There's also a lever on it that I slid, because it looked like you needed to do that in order for it to be released from the drum. So I did that, and then I said, okay, there we go. And I turned it upside down, magenta toner everywhere. So I yelled out, Ed, come here. Get over here, Ed. So Ed had to excuse himself from a customer. I said, Ed, you got to help me here. He says, what should we do? I said, go to the shop. Go to where I was going to end up working. Go to the shop. They have a toner vacuum, a black vacuum in like a canister thing. I said, go ask them for the toner vacuum. They knew what it was. They gave it to him and brought it out to the floor, and I vacuumed myself up. Now, this didn't all come up and all come out, and I had to wash stuff when I got home, but I got it cleaned up enough to be mostly presentable for the rest of the day. It was mainly on my pants, which were black, so it did definitely show up. But I did get a lot of it off. And after it was washed, maybe twice, there was nothing to see anymore. So it was just kind of a oopsie moment that I didn't realize. And I said, you know, that is poorly designed, because the typical big, fat, dumb American consumer that saw the paint cans and saw it was shiny print said, nah, 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 and they bought it. And then they go to change the toner. How many of them got a toner shower? Bad design. Bad design. That should have only been able to be released when like several catches were made, and then it could open or something like that. But anyway, that was the story. No harm really done. But there was still magenta toner bits around, and it was in the carpet and shit. All that. It was good, you know. It was definitely good. Anyway, I think my dad had a similar thing happen when he worked for IBM. He worked on IBM mainframe printers, and that was just black and white. But I think there were a few toner spills where that certainly happened as well. Not fun, certainly, but they had toner vacuums as well. I got 2 of them, so I'm all set, but I use HP printers that don't have that problem. Anyway, that's going to wrap this one up. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.